All right, everyone, welcome into episode 6 of the Good Take podcast. We have the great fortune of being joined by Fox Sports Radio's own Rob Parker. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time on this Sunday morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. No problem. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So thank you so much. So first off, we just want to ask you, we know you've given back to the to the industry like your whole career. You recently taught a journalism class at USC. So just maybe first start off by saying, like, why is it so important to you just to give back to just the industry as a whole, especially as you've gotten older and wiser?
Because when I was starting out in my career, so many big-time journalists helped me along the way, and I always felt like if I ever got to that point, that I would do the same, because I wouldn't be here without people looking out for me, showing me the way, taking me by the hand, and leading me through this. It ain't an easy road in this business. There's a lot of people want to do it. It's very competitive. It's always ever changing. So it's good to have people who have been there, done that, who can kind of relate. So I'm big into mentoring. I'm big into teaching, and it's something. And then I see some of the people I've helped mentor out there in the business now, and it's pretty cool. I'm just going to share this little story, but I met a guy named Steve Smith in 1992 at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. And a coworker of mine from the Cincinnati Enquirer brought this guy over to me by the arm, and he said, "Hey, this guy wants to be a sports writer, and I figured you would be the best person for him to talk to." And the guy sat down next to me, and his name was Steve Smith from Queens, from Hollis, Queens, and I'm from Jamaica, Queens. So we, started talking or whatever. This guy was doing high school sports in North Carolina, and used to send me his clips, cut out his stories from the newspaper, put them in an envelope, send them to me. I used to correct them, mark them up with red, to show him what he could do better, how to improve or whatever. And that guy today is Stephen A. Smith from ESPN. So that's how things happen. That doesn't mean Steve had all the talent in the world, but I'm just saying he was looking for some guidance when he was first breaking into the business. And you never know who you're going to help or who can come along. So he's one of many guys I'm proud of in this business. Mark Spears from ESPN is another guy, early on in his career. And there's just so many guys. Darren Haynes wound up being a Sports Center anchor. Do you know who Darren is? Darren Haynes was on ESPN. He's now a sportscaster in Washington, D.C., the main guy. But Darren came to me and started working on my local TV show in Detroit. And that was the first time he'd ever been on television. And he went from that to being a Sports Center anchor, and now he's a big sportscaster in Washington, D.C. So I'm proud of, all these guys. There's so many guys, I couldn't even name them all.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's fantastic stuff. And, you've worked in so many different cities, so many different publications and outlets and media organizations. Do you have one experience or couple experiences that stand out to you as the most memorable?
Well, there's a couple. Obviously, I'm a big baseball fan. I love baseball. It's my number one. I mean, I'm different from a lot of guys. So I'm a Baseball Hall of Fame voter. And, I always wanted to cover baseball. I've been covering baseball since 1986. I'm talking about Major League Baseball. My first World Series was 1986, the Red Sox and the Mets. I was at Shea Stadium when that ball went through Bill Buckner's legs. So those things are special. So when I look at my career, going to Cincinnati in 1991 when I left New York, I went to the Cincinnati Enquirer to cover the Cincinnati Reds. And I became the first African-American to ever cover the team on a daily basis. And that was huge. I mean, the Reds are the first professional team in this country's history. And after that, I worked there for a couple of years. I wound up going to Detroit, to the Detroit Free Press, and I was the first Black sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. Another huge honor in a great sports town. That was 1993. And when the paper hired me, the paper was 161 years old. So those two jobs, I had them back to back, were very, very big in my career. And obviously, you know, working at the Daily News, when they hired me at the Daily News as a general assignment sports writer, I was 22 years old. And at that time, the Daily News in New York was the biggest paper in the country. So I was really blessed in the newspaper business to have some really great jobs, I should say. And I cherished them.
So obviously, like you mentioned, you know, being sort of a trailblazer in that aspect. Obviously, you know, you're also the first Black reporter at Newsday in New York too, as well, if I'm not mistaken.
First Black sports columnist. Yep.
So the first Black sports columnist. Thanks for correcting me. I don't know. Did you think about that in the moment? Is it something that you've appreciated more over time? Are you like sort of aware of it? Maybe more so now?
At the time, I realized it was significant. But as time has gone on and I look back at my career and different things that I've been able to do, I'm very proud that I was able to blaze a trail and knock down some barriers. Even when we started the first all-sports station in Detroit, WDFN, The Fan, AM 1130. This was 1994. I was the first person they ever hired at that station. So I have a number of those first, and they all mean something, because it means that, you know, you had an impact, that you were able to get people to do something that they hadn't done for you. And so I try to use that as motivation when I talk to mentees and people in the business, that there's a first time for everything, and you can knock down barriers, and don't be afraid to fail. So many people just are afraid that it's not going to work out. It's okay if it doesn't work out. I can remember when my first job out of college was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And this is 1986. And I was there for about 5 months before the Daily News called and they hired me. And I remember when I took that job, being 22 years old, just 5 months out of college. And my other colleagues were like, aren't you afraid to go there? You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest paper in the country. What happens if you fail or whatever, or if it doesn't work out or they fire you? They were asking me that, you know, and these are young guys, we're all trying to make our way. I wasn't afraid of it. I was just like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'll go work somewhere else. But there's no way in the world I would like give up an opportunity to try to succeed at that level. And I'm very blessed and fortunate.
Yeah, no, of course. And you also talk about, you know, being a Baseball Hall of Fame voter. I'm such an appreciator of baseball history. You know, I went to the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. I thought it was
a great place.
Oh yeah.
People who haven't gone, you got to go up there.
Yeah.
Cooperstown. It is awesome.
Yeah. So my question going off of that is, I'm just curious, what to you makes a baseball Hall of Famer? Like, what's the criteria you're looking for in a Hall of Famer?
Great question, because it's different for everybody. I really take my vote seriously. I want you to know, when I first got my baseball writer's card for the BBWAA, Baseball Writers Association of America, you have to have your card for 10 consecutive years in order to get a vote. And if you skip a year, you don't get it. You have to start all over. It has to be 10 consecutive. And so when I first started, I was number like 569. And, you know, 34 years have passed in my career. And now I'm all the way down to like number 86, that means only 85 other writers have covered more baseball than me in the entire country. And there's only like about 500 people who vote. So my criteria is real simple. If you have 300 wins as a pitcher, you automatically get my vote. I don't even look at the rest of your stats. 500 home runs to me is an automatic vote as well. 3,000 hits, automatic vote for me. Everything else, I have to put everything. Well, if you don't have those numbers, I'd have to look at you really hard, figure out, you know, like what kind of average you have, you know, what kind of major awards you've won, things like that. So there are some automatics. I'm a very tough voter. I don't just, you get 10 votes every year. I don't vote for all 10. If there's only one or two people worthy, then those are the only people who get my vote. And I'm very strict. If I don't vote for you your first year, I won't vote for you your second year, your third year, because your numbers haven't changed. And if I vote for you your first year, I'm going to vote for you every year that you're on the ballot. We've seen lately, and this is a mistake, I think, by my brother, and where guys are getting in on their last chance, right? To me, if somebody went 10 or 15 years without getting in, why are you voting for him because it's his last year? To me, if you weren't a Hall of Famer your first year, how could you be a Hall of Famer 15 years later? Nothing's changed. The numbers haven't changed.
Mm-hmm.
So for people, I think it's a sympathy vote. I think it's been a mistake. I don't believe in first ballot Hall of Famer, second ballot, third. Either you're a Hall of Famer or you're not.
The only thing I would say about that is, like, if there is a certain situation where, you know, there's too many, like one year is like especially stacked, maybe then someone might have more room in a separate year. But generally, I do agree. How do you feel about the, you know, the I'm sure you've been asked this before, but in terms of Bonds and Clemens and the whole steroid era, I think obviously opinions sort of come more to just, you know, almost like a form of like acceptance. Like it's what happened. It's a part of history. We might as well. Like it's too big to ignore it. How do you feel about that and just like rewarding those guys with putting them in the Hall of
I
Fame?
agree with that. And my problem is, unless you have a test from every player who played during that era, it's hard to bar those guys. I don't think it's fair. You see their votes keep going up percentage every year. So I think they will eventually get in before their final year. They have 10 years, right? I think they're at year 8. So they still have like 3 more years for them to get voted in. I think Clemens and Bonds are 2 of the greatest players we've ever seen. I thought Mark McGwire got screwed. I voted for Mark McGwire every year. I vote for Sammy Sosa. Gary Sheffield has over 500 home runs. I don't know how Gary Sheffield gets denied a Hall of Fame entrance. I vote for Gary Sheffield. So those guys, the only guys I haven't voted for are guys who got busted after baseball changed the rules. So like Manny Ramirez, right? After they changed the rules and made steroids a banned substance, then I think that's fair, you know? But prior to that, it wasn't on the banned substance list, and I don't think it's fair to go back in history and then, you know, point a finger at these guys, especially when we don't know. There's a Mitchell report out. There's still another 150 or 200 names that's supposedly on a list of guys who tested positive. I believe some of those guys are in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
just because,
no question.
Right? And just because we don't know their name, I think it's silly. Pudge Rodriguez got in on his first ballot, and he's named in the Canseco book. Canseco said that he used to stick Pudge, right, with the stuff. So it's hard. And that book wound up being true, right?
Mike Piazza too. Yeah.
Mike Piazza was long rumored. He got in.
Oh, yeah. Even David Ortiz is going to get in also. Yeah.
David Ortiz was on that list with Manny Ramirez. And I think they're going to vote for David Ortiz. I will, but I'm just saying, like, the masses, they're not going to hold it against those guys. And I don't think it's right. I don't.
Now, sort of pivoting a little bit to the current events, what's going on this year, something we've both talked about on this podcast before is how the MLB might have missed a really big opportunity this year with the Astros situation, and then how it took so long for the season to get started when there was going to be all this drama and all this tension surrounding that. Do you think baseball will still be able to sort of gain interest around that?
I do. I think baseball is going to have a great season. You know what? I don't know how much more it would have been. Maybe 81 games. Maybe, you know what I mean, 20. The difference between baseball and the other sports is that the other sports got stopped during their season. So there was no reason to kind of figure out how people were going to get paid. There was no debate to that. You know what I mean? Like just watch coming up with the NFL. They don't have to figure out what's going to happen, how they're going to do it, how people are going to get paid, testing, you know. So the NFL is going to do it, going to have to go through this because their season wasn't stopped. The NBA, there was nothing to negotiate. Same thing with the NHL. What was there to negotiate? You just keep playing and pick up where you left off. But baseball, when you talk about 60 games, how in the world could you not watch them all or want to watch them? It's going to be over like that, fast and furious. And I think this Thursday with the start with the Yankees and Nationals as the first game and the Dodgers and Giants, you might have unbelievable ratings for those because people have been dying to watch games.
Yeah.
Are you not going to be glued on Thursday?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I've been glued to watching golf. I mean, are you kidding me?
That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
can't wait for Thursday. So for these games, and then these games, baseball has a full week or so before NBA games start. So then the weekend, I think Fox has like a triple header. There'll be games on. I've been watching some Dodgers inter squad games on cable here in LA, and I'm telling you, just 3 innings, no fans or whatever. I've been like glued. I've been like, oh my God, for an inter squad game, I was jacked just to see baseball. So I think baseball did it right. The Nationals obviously deserve to be on, right? The champions. And then the Yankees to face them, I think that's great. And then there's a chance with baseball this year with the Dodgers and Yankees have, to me, the 2 best teams. If somehow, some way, it's fast, it's furious, a lot of interest, and then those 2 teams maybe meet in the World Series, this could be a great jumping off point for baseball. I think it's going to be good.
I was gonna say at this point I might want to watch a replay of one of my little league games. I'm that desperate. Listen,
I get it.
Yeah, I mean this is just an unbelievable situation, obviously. So we did want to ask you. We couldn't have you on without asking. We're both Oakland natives, raised there. Yeah, you are known to throw some slander Steph Curry's way. First of all, why has Chris Broussard not gotten to you yet? Number one, and then number two, you say that he is not that guy. So what exactly do you mean by that? It's a little 2-part question.
Okay. It's Steph Curry's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. I get all that. My only issue I have is when people talk about him being the greatest shooter of all time, I think you have to have some signature shots in big spots. When the game is on the line, right, in the final 20 seconds with a chance to win, Steph Curry's 0 for 9. That's not an opinion. That's a fact.
So, yes, but he's also made game-tying shots. He just hasn't made game-winning shots. But go ahead.
Game tying is a little different from game.
No, I know. But also, when you're behind, you can argue there's more pressure, though. But I hear you.
To win the game.
I hear you.
Even last year, think about it. Even despite the injuries and all that, Steph had a chance. He didn't even need a 3. He had a chance to send that series to a game 7. And he got space. And he had a chance to make that shot. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. But he's Steph's made plenty of big shots in his playoff career.
But 0 for 9.
Sure. And he's had some atrocious finals games. No question.
He also. So my point is, and then if he was that guy, even when Kevin Durant showed up, who's a great player, Steph wouldn't have to take a back seat to him.
He didn't take a back seat.
Yes, he did take a back seat.
He did not.
He did because who was the MVP in the final?
Okay, so I hear you make that argument all the time whenever I listen, which long-time listener. But okay, which I appreciate that argument. 2017, I would say Steph probably took more of a probably seeded a little more of the spotlight. In 2018, he was actually on course to win the Finals MVP, and then he just had one of the worst games of his career. Which I get it, in a 4-game sweep, if that's what happens, you're not going to win Finals MVP. But remember Steph set the Finals record for threes made in a game in 2018, and then he just wet the bed, and so that's what happens. But
and that's my point.
I got it.
If you're going to crown somebody, here's my thing. If you're going to crown
he had one bad game out of the 4, but yeah.
But if you're going to crown somebody the greatest of all time, then we're going to nitpick, right? We're going to look at everything.
Okay. So I hear you, but then who's the best shooter of all time? Then you said Ray Allen, right?
I would take Ray Allen to make me a big shot in a big game. I would. I'd take Reggie Miller.
Okay.
I would take those 2 guys over Steph. I'm talking about to make a big shot.
Okay, but
in a big game.
But if we're talking the greatest shooter of all time, is the entire criteria just to make a big shot, or what?
No. But Ray Allen's made more threes than Steph Curry.
No, okay, but Steph.
I'm talking about right here.
Okay. All right. But you would admit that Steph will probably pass him in a few years, probably in 2 years from now, roughly?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He'll probably pass him, but let's see where the career goes.
Okay.
If they don't win again, I'm just asking you, say they don't win again, which I don't believe they will, Golden State.
Okay. Actually, I have a question about that. But
if they don't win again, right, and Steph is the main guy and they don't win again, you don't think that's going to change the way people look at him?
I mean, what about? I mean, he's done so much stuff up to this point. You know,
Yeah.
all the records.
I get it. But,
okay. Change. Okay. Well, I think it's not going to change
if
it.
he plays 8 more years and they don't win another title, I'm just. You don't think? And after Durant,
people already look at him. A lot of people already look at him the way that you do, sort of with like a questioning eye a little bit. So I think it'll just, in those people's minds, it'll just confirm what they think that they know. I was actually going to ask you.
Okay.
We really want to respect your time, and thank you again for coming on. But we did want to ask you. So number one, where did your it's so quiet, you can hear a rat urinate. So that's the first question. Where did
you can hear a mouse urinate?
Mouse urinate. And then number two, when the Warriors win the title next year and Steph wins Finals MVP, it's going to be so quiet that Rob Parker can hear a mouse urinate on where exactly?
On me,
probably.
Probably on me if he wins. You know what? It was. I was married and we were at Thanksgiving dinner in Detroit, and my wife's grandmother at that time, somebody said something in the room, and the grandmother didn't hear it, and my wife said, Grandma, her hearing's not good. She can't hear, so she didn't hear that. And her grandmother said, "What do you mean my hearing's bad? There's nothing wrong with my hearing." And she said, this is at the table, she said, my ears are so good, I can hear a rat piss on cotton. So I thought that was so funny. That's really where it came from. So I kind of made it a mouse because I think a mouse is smaller than a rat. You know what I mean? And a mouse, urinating on cotton to me was funny. And then I started doing it on Twitter, and then people started going crazy over it, looking for it.
It's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, I have a book called Tales of Rob Parker's Urinating Mouse on Amazon.com. And also there's another book out there if you want. Really good columns if you guys want to read. It's called If I'm Writing, I'm Ripping. And it's columns I've written over the years.
I always wondered that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Just one final thing we want to ask you. What sort of work or projects do you have going on right now?
Writing a book about this should be out in September. A book about my life and all the people I've met who had a factor. They factored in on who I am today, and they helped build me and develop me. So that I think that's going to be interesting. Couple of new podcasts. I really can't tell the names of them, but a couple new podcasts.
Inside the Parker, right?
Well, Inside the Park is the baseball one, which drops every Thursday morning. So I'm glad that baseball's starting. And then two new ones coming out in September as well, in the fall. So a lot of good stuff happened in the book. It's called Rob Parker and the People Who Made Me. That's the name of the book. And it's my life story.
Awesome. That's all we've got. Thank you so much for coming on today. We know you didn't have to do this, so we really appreciate your time, man.
Try to keep it in the 20 minutes. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, and no sweat. And we'll do it another time, okay? I'll give you guys another shot down the road. We'll do that. We'll wait till we'll talk, and then we'll do one more soon, and then we'll do another one when the Warriors get eliminated.
I was about to ask
next year. It's all right. Hey, you're from that area.
Exactly.
You should embrace him.
Of course.
And everything that's happened. And it doesn't mean it's the same thing that people in Kansas City are mad at me, because I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to win 4 Super Bowls in a row like everybody thinks, because of the way the game is set up and how hard it is to win.
He should know. I mean, we're also Niners fans too from the Bay Area. He shouldn't have won this last year, obviously.
Right.
So you got
a bad coach there. And Kyle Shanahan.
Did you say bad coach?
Yes, he's choked down 2 Super Bowls now. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that doesn't mean yes, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad coach.
Okay,
yes.
but he's choked down.
Oh no! That you'll get no argument from us about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you should lose either one of those Super Bowls.
Absolutely.
That Atlanta Super Bowl is disgraceful.
So was this past year. So was this past year.
No, both are, but I'm just saying the Atlanta one. Remember, if you remember that game at the end, they Julio Jones makes a great catch to set up a first and 10
he bailed him out. Yeah.
At the 22, right? All they have to do is kneel down.
Sit down.
And then kick a field goal. You're up by 11. You win the Super Bowl.
I was like, why are you rolling out Matt Ryan to what are you doing? And then a holding,
a holding, a sack. You get taken out of field goal range. You could have run the ball straight 3 straight times or kneel down.
He could have scouted his butt. I know. I actually, you know, Rob, I would like to know where I can find your Lote Tom Brady shirt. I'm curious. For those who don't know, the luckiest of all time. Yeah.
Right. Those are coming out in September as well. So you'll be able
are they actually?
Yeah. GetRob.com is the website. GetRob.com.
Gosh. We'll check that out for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for the business and helping people like us out.
There you go. And keep working hard, man. Keep being innovative and don't be afraid to fail. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Rob. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Rob Parker here on the Good Take podcast. Thanks so much for stopping by. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more podcasts. Stay tuned. Be sure to check out Good Take with Alex Hutton and Zevan Schuster on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else podcasts are available.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at AlexHutton35. That's Alex Hutton, Hutton 35, and at ZShust9. That's ZSHUST9. And please follow us, spread our work, and we hope to see you back here again soon. Thanks so much.
Now back to the show. Welcome back into episode 6 of Good Take. Alex Hutton and Zevan Schuster back with you here. Once again, thank you so much to Rob Parker for coming on. We're really glad to have him on.
Yeah, that was really fun. It was really generous of him to take the time. And I really thought it was interesting, what he had to say about his journey, obviously about, baseball and present day sports. I really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah. And, we don't have to, the people we have on, we don't have to agree with every single sports take that they have, but we can, we have a lot of respect for them and the journey they've been on, especially him, because he told us some really cool stories. So it was good to have him here.
Yeah. It was really fun. I definitely enjoyed, hearing about his sort of trailblazing path. I thought that was really sort of inspirational. I think it's something that a lot of journalists, African American and not, he's someone that they can look up to. And I think, this industry, if it were to be filled with more people like him, I think it would make it a better place. Just really like a low key guy. I mean, took the time to talk to 2 college kids who he didn't even know. I think that tells you a lot about him and what he stands for. So plus, I mean, he teaches journalism classes at USC. So clearly he's, as we mentioned in the interview with him, so clearly he takes it really personally to try and, bring along the next wave of journalists.
Absolutely. And now, sure, shifting topics, and we talked about a little bit with him, but, baseball is about to start up. Basketball is very close to starting back up. Hockey is very close to starting back up. Really big stuff coming up with sports. And, a lot of the sort of the test results and the sort of health risks are actually, I think, at this point, being managed fairly well. And it's creating more optimism for me personally.
Yeah, I know. I saw with the NHL, they had 2 positive tests. The NBA in the bubble now has 0. And
right.
I just saw today Russell Westbrook is landing in the bubble, which is really, really cool. Obviously, we don't, neither of us like the Rockets, but we don't want any stars to get obviously not. I mean, plus we even forget even getting sick. I mean, even if they get coronavirus with no symptoms, the fact that they have to sit out 2 weeks, which is basically a playoff series, that's we want everyone to play, everyone to be healthy and everything. So I think it seems like all systems go, or is what it's about to be like. Which, man, I mean, my dad and I were just watching highlights of the A's and Giants game last night, and even that was just that was like a breakfast buffet at like a 5-star hotel. It was like that good.
Yeah, no, I caught the last 2 innings of that last night, and it's fun. Even with no fans, even with the cardboard cutouts, and the broadcasters being in a different facility and all that stuff. It's still fun to watch. It's still sports,
Yeah, I do have to ask you, what did you think of? My dad and I were just kind of cringed at the fan noise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the A's. I mean, let's be honest, they don't have that much fan noise to begin with, but it was so manufactured. Obviously, it was just it was the same like every time, whether like home run or strikeout, whatever, fly ball, like Brady's allowed to catch it, bunch of noise, but it was the same. It seemed very forced, which obviously it is, and I get this is the best that they can do. For me, what makes fan noise fun is when you have 20,000 people doing it at once versus when you have like one or two people just pressing a button. Plus, the noise wasn't even. It was just the same every time. It wasn't even. There was no variance to it. What do you think of that? And what are you going to think of? We've heard all these things about like apps making noise. What are your thoughts on the whole like manufactured crowd noise? I'd almost rather them just be a product of the genuine environment that we're all living in. I mean, we're all going through like weird times, so I'd rather them not manufacture.
I'm with you on that. I think it's a little weird. I think that I've been watching a little bit on and off of the MLS tournament that's happening in Orlando. It's also happening on the same Disney campus that the NBA is playing in, and they're not really using crowd noise. They're just kind of letting it play out. It's still really fun and really cool because you get to hear more of the players talking to each other. You get to hear the coaches yelling instruction to the players, which when especially MLS when you have like the supporter sections and the fans are like there to make noise the whole game, and you can't hear anything because they're always going. When you don't have that, you get to hear what's actually going on, and I find that really cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially when we've seen like with UFC too. I mean, like you can actually hear what the coaches are like yelling to them in the middle of the fight.
Yep.
Plus, you know what cool it would be? I mean, everyone thinks it's cool when we hear like Wired or they go in the huddle with like the coach and he's like,
yep.
Play hard, stay strong, play some defense. And like
all those vague kind of quotes where they can't give any strategy away.
Exactly, they're not allowed to, and right. I think it might just kind of be like unavoidable. I mean, there's nothing they can really do. I mean, because we're basically getting to hear everything. Can you imagine, LeBron and let's say Paul George just talking smack like F-bombs, like I'm gonna bust your someone's coaches yelling like what's the coach yelling, and honestly it's not gonna be anything new. I mean, I'm sure they yell in person, say all sorts of crazy things during the games, but for us to actually be able to hear it, like this might be kind of cool. Like I think it's something that we've all kind of imagined, like what if we got to hear, like we've gotten bits and pieces with like things like Hard Knocks and The Last Dance with some footage there, but actually for the playoffs and the finals to actually
right.
That's never happened before.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like those like finals mini movies that the NBA produces for like each game of the finals, and that whole thing. It's like that is like taking that to the next level. They have an opportunity to do that, the way I see it, and
totally.
Yeah, I'd be down for that sort of a very kind of real life, in the moment kind of thing, and that actually I think provides a perfect transition into our closing segment for the day, which today we are calling "What If I Told You." As you might have guessed, it's named after the
You should have said what? You should have said in the voice.
What if I told you? What if I told you? Does that sound right? That sound better?
Like the Wait, do you want to do it again? You say it, and then I'll do the music. Okay, ready?
Okay. What if I told you? There we go. Okay. As you might have guessed, this is named after the famous ESPN 30 for 30 tagline, because in this segment, what we're going to do is pitch documentaries we'd like to see about famous sports stories. We'll propose them, and then after we're done making our pitch, the other person will propose a potential title for the documentary. Would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay. So first of all, there's so many good choices.
Of course.
Especially, I will say first off, like this whole 2020, this whole year could be made into like 5 documentaries. I mean, there's so much. I would love a documentary about like the bubble, obviously about Kobe when the league stopped. So there's so many different options. But the one that I have wanted to see for a long time is just about the life and the career and the downfall of Johnny Manziel. I think that would be really fascinating. I mean, in terms of coming out of college, the only person I can compare the hype that he got to was Tim Tebow. He was he was like an A-list celebrity. I mean, you saw him at courtside at games. I mean, he obviously with his famous money sign, like he was like the next hotshot. I'll admit personally, probably the most wrong I've ever been on any prospect from any sport. I thought he was going to be a top 5 NFL quarterback within 5 years. That was my kind of prediction. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was dumb. That was pretty stupid. But he just had such a swagger and such a charisma to him that I can't remember hardly anyone's had, coming into the pros, in either of our lifetimes. And then it just never quite clicked. He, obviously had, he had some problems, whether it be drinking, partying too much. He didn't really take his job in the NFL seriously. Obviously, going to the Browns was probably not the best situation for him, needless to say. But he had such a fascinating journey and such a precipitous downfall that I think he had talent to make it in the league, but just his off the field and his character concerns really just manifested themselves. And I think prevented what could have been a really fascinating and potentially great career. So I think his story is totally documentary worthy.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I got to come up with the title for the Johnny Manziel documentary. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is The Fall of Johnny Football. I think that could be something that would like just sort of very, it gets his nickname in there, kind of captures the hype around him, and then sort of the way in which he fell off the radar. I mean, he ended up in the CFL at one point.
I think he did, yeah.
From a potential top 5 pick to a CFL guy for a year.
Right, well, the Browns drafted him like 22nd, I want to say.
I think so, yeah. Some people thought they were going to pick it. They had like 2 picks in that first round, so they thought they were going to take him with the earlier pick, and then there were some trades involved.
Yeah.
And they ended up taking him later in the first round. So, yeah, I'll go with The Fall of Johnny Football for the title of that one.
What do you think it would make a good doc?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, because it gets at it's obviously a fascinating story in of itself, but also gets at like the hype around college athletes and like what happens when you hype up like an 18 or 19-year-old to that level, and sort of how different people handle it in different ways.
Because he wasn't mature enough to,
right? Because there have been some people who have been able to take that and turn it into great careers, and some people who just really struggle with it.
No question. Last thing before I let you go, I think it's impressive. I know we talked a lot of smack on him, but someone like LeBron, who was hyped that much from such a young age, in fact, he's gotten into no trouble, never any off the field things. And Zion's kind of similar, just in terms of not the player, but just in terms of how he's handled it and the maturity. But I think we got to give props to guys like that who really put in the fire since they were so young.
Yeah, of course,
at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, you're still kind of a child, and it can be hard to handle that pressure so young. So you got to give a lot of credit to.
Can you imagine us when we were 16? He's the next, the chosen one, or they're the
I don't think either of us would have handled it well.
Oh gosh, I would have. Oh God. Let's move on.
All right, yeah, my turn. So what I would want to see a documentary about is the story of the Jackie Robinson West Little League at the 2014 Little League World Series. They were a Chicago Little League baseball team. They were competing for the Little League World Series title. They won the U.S. Side of the bracket and made it to the championship. They lost to South Korea in the final. But in the months that followed, the investigation revealed that they had used players who lived outside of the eligible playing area, the district from other districts, to help them win, and so to allow better players to play in the league and help them get there. And at the end, they were stripped of the U.S. title, and it was given to the team they beat in the final. And I would really love to see something that dives into how they pulled off the scheme and how it got uncovered, because initially the investigation closed after a few months and with no evidence of wrongdoing, but then later more people came forward and said we wanted to see them win, and now sort of we realized that was wrong, and we want to let the truth come out.
Was Jackie in the right district? Was he in the correct district?
I mean, no. Oh, I apologize for that confusion. It wasn't a league that he played in. The league was just named after him.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So, so they initially closed with no wrongdoing, but then they sort of.
Sorry, you said 2014.
Yeah.
So I thought you for a second was like, did he mean 1914? Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I do remember.
No, yeah, totally understandable.
And they had someone who was a year older, I believe. They had one pitcher. I want to say he was way, but he was a year old. I want to say.
That may be. I'm not 100% sure about that, but they definitely used players who didn't live in the allowed area to play in that league, and so it became a whole thing because they went to the White House and met Obama and all that stuff, and they were honored as this big time thing. But then it revealed, and I think it's obviously it's an interesting story, but it also gets at there's a larger theme to it of how far adults are willing to go for their kids to win Little League games.
Yeah. We saw it when we played Little League baseball. I mean, I could tell. I mean, not people would be bored about it on this podcast, but there's so many stories that I'm sure we're listening to. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I mean, it's we've encountered some certainly some crazy parents from our days in Little League, but nothing at that level. But it does get at the idea of how far the parents and these adults willing to go to bend the rules and do things for a kid game, for a Little League game. And I think that's obviously something that comes up a lot in the context of youth sports. I think it'd be really interesting to see a full deep dive on it.
Honestly, I would love it. I definitely would love to see I'd love for it to wait until all the kids were like adults to really hear. I would love for it to wait for when they're in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, so we could really get their sort of adult, like, yeah, that was wrong. This is how I was pressured. What that way. I mean, maybe they don't now, but especially for them to not feel pressure to like say the right thing to the cameras.
Yeah, no, maybe in 10 or 15 years, I'll be like 33, 35, something in there. So maybe that'd be the right time to break that one out. And
they're the same. They're about the same age as us, right?
a little younger, but yeah.
Younger?
Yeah. I know, so
okay.
You gotta say, what do you want the title of that one to be?
Gosh, I would probably say something like, Little League, Bush League, or Little League, I don't know, what I want to say crafty or just a deception. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe something about, adults being sort of not behaving the way that they should. Maybe like adult Little League, or just we can just make it simple, like the something about like adults forgetting who the kids are, something along those lines.
Maybe
like, put on the spot with this, but
yeah, I know, like they're just kids or something like that.
There you go. There you go.
Well, when we make these documentaries, we'll really put our heads together, come up with the title.
Come back to us in 10 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that was good. Is there any, before we sign off, is there any, like, I don't know, maybe honorable mentions that we would subjects we love to see? And then
I didn't when I was preparing for this segment, I didn't really come up with any. If you got a couple ideas you want to just throw out there, feel free.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love, like I mentioned, for this, like the last handful of months. But I would also love one about my top second choice was Conor McGregor. I think I would call it Food Stamps to Fame. I mean, he was in 2013. He was getting food stamps in Ireland, trying to just get by, and then 4 years later, he's fighting Floyd Mayweather and making $100 million. Right. And then obviously he's had he was the sort of rebellious one, beat the odds, the establishment, and then he kind of became what he despised. It's kind of a classic story. Like once you make the money, you kind of sell out a little bit. I mean, he obviously he punched the guy in the bar. He's gotten into various criminal trouble. He slapped a phone out of some guy's hand. Like the thing with Khabib where he threw the whatever it's called into the bus. I mean, just really, I think sort of lost his way for a while there, and just really sort of, I think it'd make a fascinating story about how money and, even people who grow up the purest and with the best of intentions, once they make a bunch of money, it can be hard to sort of not lose focus and kind of, find your way for a little while.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. Other interesting stories. Throw out a couple quick names. Josh Hamilton, from into becoming a superstar to kind of then getting a massive contract with the Angels and kind of falling off. And then
you remember the home run derby, obviously too. That was one of the most. That's one of the most entertaining things I've ever watched in sports.
Yeah, and then also for going to hockey, John Scott, who famous enforcer, voted captain of the All-Star game, became out of nowhere, it became like this huge story, like for a few months in 2014 maybe. Not sure exactly what year it was, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be really cool to sort of get into that and how sort of that internet campaign just kind of took off.
Yeah, and I think there's also, they sometimes they do the 30 for 30 shorts. Like they do the famous one with George Bush when he threw the first pitch after 9/11. Not to get political, but and then he like ran into like Derek Jeter, like underneath the stadium, like in like the batting cages, and that was a cool moment. That was like 15-20 minutes. So there's a bunch of small stories that they could do too. Like I think the one about John Scott, I think that would be perfect for that type of scenario.
Yeah, for sure. All right, good episode. That does it for episode 6.
That was fun.
Yeah, great time once again. Thanks to Rob Parker. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching, however you might be taking this in.
And then, please make sure on YouTube, like and subscribe to us. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Spread the word. Make our traffic increase.
Exactly. All right. We will see you guys shortly. Take care for now.